Object constructors in JavaScript act as blueprints. They allow you to create multiple objects that share similar properties and methods. This concept is fundamental to object-oriented programming in JavaScript, promoting code reusability and better organization. In this example, a function named car is defined. Takes make and model as parameters. Inside the function, this.make is assigned the value of make, and this.model is assigned the value of model. A new object is created using the new keyword, named myCar, by calling the car constructor with Tesla as make and model3 as model. Constructor functions are essentially blueprints for creating objects. By convention, they begin with a capital letter. The this keyword is used within the constructor to set the properties of the object. Constructor functions are also used to define methods that will be shared by all instances of the object. In this example, a constructor function named person is defined. It takes name and age as arguments and assigns them to this.name and this.age respectively. A method named greet is also defined inside the constructor function that returns a greeting message using the name property. The new operator plays a crucial role in creating objects using constructor functions. Firstly, it creates a brand new empty object. Then, it sets the object's prototype to the constructor's prototype property. After this, it binds the this keyword to the newly created object, enabling access to the object's properties within the constructor's scope. Finally, the new operator automatically returns the newly created object. In the example, a constructor function named user is defined. When the new operator is used with the user constructor to create a new object named admin, it creates a new user with the name Alice and role admin. Every constructor function in JavaScript has a prototype property which is an object. When you create an object using a constructor function, the newly created object inherits properties and methods from the constructor's prototype. This mechanism is known as prototypal inheritance. The diagram illustrates this concept, with the constructor function pointing to its prototype and the instance pointing to the prototype through its __proto___ property. In the example, a function animal is defined which takes name as an argument. A new method called speak is added to the prototype of the animal constructor. This speak method can be directly accessed by all the objects created using the animal constructor function. The dog object created using the new keyword can access the speak method. There are several useful patterns for initializing objects in JavaScript. The default properties pattern allows setting default values for properties if options are not provided. The object.assign pattern is used to merge default values with the provided values for the object. In the first example, a function named config takes an options object as an argument with a default empty object. Inside, default values for theme and timeout are defined which are overridden by values provided in options. In the second example, a default object is created with the role user and active as true. These default values are merged with the data parameter passed to the constructor using object.assign. Factory functions provide an alternative way to create objects in JavaScript. Unlike constructor functions, they do not require the use of the new keyword. Factory functions leverage closures to create private variables and avoid issues with the this binding. They also enable composition over inheritance by returning a new object. In this example, a factory function called createPlayer is defined. It takes name and level as arguments. Inside the function, playerStats is defined and finally an object is returned with the properties name, level, and the properties from playerStats. A method levelUp is also defined to increase the level and health. A new player object is created using the createPlayer function. There are various patterns to define constructors in JavaScript. The method declaration pattern involves adding methods directly to the constructor's prototype, ensuring they are shared by all objects created using the constructor. The constructor property pattern, on the other hand, uses object.defineProperty to define properties on the constructor using getter methods for accessing the private properties. In the first example, a constructor named shape is defined with a property type. The prototype property is assigned an object with two methods getArea and toString, which are shared by all the objects created using the shape constructor. In the second example, a constructor function database is defined and a connection property is created using the const keyword. Using object.defineProperty, a status property is created with a getter method which returns connected or disconnected based on the connection. Inheritance is a fundamental concept in object-oriented programming. It allows objects to inherit properties and methods from other objects. In JavaScript, this is achieved using prototypal inheritance. In this diagram, the animal class is a parent class with properties name and a method named makeSound. The dog and cat classes are child classes, extending from the parent class and having their own unique properties like bark and meow. In the example, a constructor function called animal is defined with name as an argument and a method makeSound on its prototype. Another constructor function called dog is created, and it calls the animal constructor using the call method. The prototype of the dog constructor is set to a newly created object from animal prototype to achieve inheritance. Lastly, a method called bark is added to the prototype of the dog constructor. There are different ways to implement inheritance in JavaScript. The classical inheritance pattern involves setting the child's prototype to an object created from the parent's prototype. In contrast, the parasitic inheritance pattern creates an object and adds its own unique methods or properties before returning it. In the first example, a constructor called vehicle is created with the property type. Another constructor called car is created which calls the vehicle constructor to inherit the type property and adds an additional property called brand. Car prototype is set to an object created from vehicle prototype to achieve inheritance. In the second example, a function called createVehicle is defined with property type. Another function called createCar is defined which calls the createVehicle function. Then it returns a new object by adding brand property and getFullInfo method. When working with object constructors in JavaScript, always use capital letters for constructor function names. Create reusable methods on the prototype instead of defining them directly inside the constructor. Consider using factory functions when you need private variables, and always set the constructor property after inheritance. Some common pitfalls to avoid are forgetting the new keyword with constructors, defining methods inside the constructor instead of on the prototype, modifying object prototype or other built-in prototypes, and not handling the this context properly in methods. By following these best practices and avoiding common mistakes, you can write more robust and maintainable JavaScript code. If you like this video, hit that like button and don't forget to subscribe. Visit codelucky.com for more such useful content.